Hi, I'm Susan, and welcome back to my channel. Right here, right now, this is where we work together. We're helping leaders find their voice and use their voice. I'm coming to you with this purpose because I have experienced firsthand the amazing transformation that can take place when you actually find your voice and then use it in a way that has impact. I've been leading people for well over 20 years. I have had the joy and pleasure of teaching many, many leaders in particular how to find their leadership voice and use it in a way that they get to fulfill their purpose. And that's what this whole platform is for. So if you're here today because you're struggling with finding your own voice that is true and authentic and how you can share that in your life, hang out and take this in and let's see if we can help. So in the last couple videos, we broke it down with how to use and find your voice, right? We talked very specifically and gave you a little bit of exercises to do so that you could work on finding your own voice and then using it. So today, I want to talk more specifically about 4 things to consider before you decide where you're going to share your voice. So this is where to share, all right? 4 things that we're going to think about. I'm going to dart my eyes off every once in a while just to stay on track with my outline. Otherwise, I'd be here talking to you forever because I love to do this. So if you're ready to dive in, hit me with a like, hit me with a subscribe. Please share with anyone else that you know is on their journey of self-improvement in the leadership space, really coming from a place of recovering from burnout and grief. That seems to be specifically my jam because I've been there. And I know how hard it is. And I also know how rewarding it is when you can get to the other side and redefine who you are, how you are, and where you need to be. So since we're going to assume that we're all working on this journey together, you have to practice and practice and practice how you're going to assert yourself by using your voice that you've done the work to find and get back in touch with. So the first step, you have to consider location, location, location. And what do I mean by that? It's not just for real estate. It's not just for vacation. It's also where you're going to share your voice. I think half the time we are fearful about sharing whatever it is that we have to say. We are terrified of getting the rejection. What if this isn't popular? What if I make someone mad? What if I hurt someone's feelings? Well, location, location, location. And the first thing to consider about that is that not everyone is going to want to hear what you have to say. So the more fast, the quicker that you can reconcile that in your mind and make it okay. Not everyone, you can't be validated by the praise of other people, because if you are, as soon as someone has something negative to say, it's going to take you out. And I say that like it's an easy thing. Listen, I have fought against this for years and years and years. I'm very sensitive to what people have to say. And when people say things like your words matter, I get it 100%, because it does matter. You're receiving someone else's energy and then you're allowing it to land on you. So part of this journey, ironically, is to stop letting that happen. And when you are really confident in your own voice, you will be able to receive the fact that not everyone wants to hear it. Not everyone is going to embrace it. Not everyone is going to be cheering you on. And that's okay. The world is big enough. There is more than enough space for naysayers and champions of what you have to say and how you use your voice. So we're just going to focus on you getting well with your own voice and how you can kind of build a barrier, not to the love and wonderful things that people have to offer, but a barrier and a boundary so that you don't allow things in that aren't really helpful, right? It's kind of like planting a garden. You know what needs to go in the dirt. You know what can't be in the dirt. We are cultivating our own soil. We know what we have to plant and we know what we have to weed out. and other people's opinions are something that we have to weed out. Okay? Can we all agree on that? Give me a like, drop me a comment. If this is particularly hard for you, drop me a comment, because in those 20 years that I said I've been leading people, that is one common thing. Month after month, day after day, year after year. That does not go away. So everyone's on a different time of their own development. And if that is a current struggle for you, drop me a line on how you've conquered it. Drop me a line on how you might be struggling with it. And if you want something specific done for content in a follow-up video, I'm happy to speak to that. Okay, so moving on. Number 1, location, location, location. Number 2, second thing you want to consider when you're thinking about where you're going to share your voice. You want to choose a place, especially as you're practicing, where you can identify that there is physical and psychological safety. And what do I mean by that? Physical safety, of course, is where you feel you're in a safe place. This sounds pretty basic. However, if you're going into a space and you know that you have something to say that could potentially trigger someone into a very drastic response, you need to look at the space and think about it. Am I safe here? And why do I say that for leaders? Well, because in leadership, I have seen where some people think it is absolutely well within their right to lash out at another human because they don't like what they have to say. Does that make it right? Absolutely not. Should you tolerate that in leadership? Absolutely not. But you need to think 2 or 3 steps ahead and make sure that you're going into a space that is safe, right? This is part of situational awareness. If you're going to have a meeting with someone and deliver some hard messages, you need to think about, where am I? Where are the exits? Where is this person? Where are we all in proximity to each other? So I don't want that to freak you out. But again, when we're talking about things that are scary to us, and sharing our voice is scary enough, so when you start adding layers of, I'm fearful about what I have to say, I'm fearful about their response, I'm fearful about how safe am I, you are part of cultivating that space and that environment to create your own safety. So make sure you've checked it out and that you have made as much of the space safe to your whatever elements are within your control, is what I'm trying to say. So that's the physical safety part. The psychological safety is this. We have to be okay in our head. And if you're lucky enough to work in an environment where there is a whole team of people who are creating psychological safety, that is fantastic. I would venture to say that there are a lot more environments that are working their way towards that and haven't really mastered it yet. So you need to know your own guidelines and boundaries of what you will and you will not tolerate when it comes to maintaining and protecting the peace in your mind so that you're psychologically safe to use and share your voice. Let me know if that's tracking for you. This sounds so normal to me because that's where my headspace is all the time. If it's not sounding normal to you and you have follow-up questions, ask me about it. Drop me a comment. I would love to explain further. But for the purpose of this teaching, we're just going to leave it at that. Okay? So the third thing to consider when you want to decide where you're going to share your voice, where the culture is aligned to your values. That is number 3. If you have the luxury of being in a space where the culture is pretty much aligned to your values, you have an absolute gold mine of a place to be. Not everyone is in that space all the time, right? Sometimes we're working for other people, we're working for a corporation, we haven't cultivated our own space, or we're still practicing, trying to figure out, how do I cultivate my space on someone else's turf, right? So if you're not self-employed, you're not your own boss, then I'm speaking to you. You have to be able to figure out how to cultivate your own culture within your little mini space. So making sure that the values that you identified a couple videos ago are aligned with where you are using your skills and talents. Because if you're showing up every day to use your skills and talents, You have to use your voice and you have to share it. And you're doing that, and there's friction. There is opportunity that lives there, which we'll talk about in later videos. That is not for today. For today, you're practicing and you need safety, and you need to know that your values are not going to be rejected straight out of the gates by the very culture of the place that you are employed. Does that make sense? Okay, so what I would really love for you to do, hit me with a thumbs up, hit me with a subscribe, hit me with a comment, and hit me with a share. When you do those things, then I know you're getting something out of this. If you don't like to comment, it's okay. I'm not a big, huge commenter myself, but generally if something rings true for me, when I'm learning from someone else, I'll give them a like and usually a subscribe so I can check out their further content. If you could do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it, because it helps me get the feedback I need to improve and improve and improve. You're lucky enough to be here with me in the very early days where we're working out all the kinks. So again, have grace with me. I so appreciate it. If you're here this long, clearly you have grace with me. Okay, so a quick recheck on your values, because I'm asking you to see if your culture that you're sharing your voice in is aligned with your values. So let's go back to the example of trustworthiness, ethics, grace. Let's say you're using and sharing your voice in a place that you want to demonstrate grace, right? And grace, we've talked about this a lot. Grace is really giving people space, but it's not just giving people space with kindness and devoid of any kind of feedback. It's giving people space with bringing in real heavy amounts of just kindness and goodness, and recognizing where things are working before you go into having conversations around what requires improvement, what could be corrected. So it's something that, if that is important to you, but you're working in a place where no one is on that wavelength, and the culture of the organization is kind of coming in hot with just correction and punitive kind of stuff, there's a mismatch. So that is out of alignment. Again, I would say you have to attempt to cultivate your own space as the leader that you are. You can be in an organization like that and still find a way to deliver and have impact. It's going to be a lot harder, and you might reach burnout a whole lot quicker, which would be terrible. But it can be done if that's kind of what you're stuck with right now. Again, later time, later content. For today's purpose, just know wherever you're sharing your voice, if the culture is out of alignment with your own values, it's going to be challenging. Okay. So let's go to number 4. You want to consider sharing your voice where you're going to have the greatest impact. So that kind of brings together all the 3, right? 1 is location, 2 is where there's physical and psychological safety, 3 is where the culture is aligned with your values, and 4, where you're going to have the greatest impact. Impact is different for everyone, but what is in common with impact, no matter what you're trying to accomplish, is that you see a result. Impact is you see a result, and you have to be taking action, and you have to be taking steps to move forward in a forward motion to deliver that impact. I don't know a great example of how you could be impactful without using your voice. And when we go back again and think about using your voice, you might be using your voice verbally, non-verbally, you might be choosing silence, and you're using your body language. There are all these ways to use your voice, but you're leaving evidence of who you are with every transaction that you have with someone. I think one of the most sad things in a transaction with someone is when there's a transaction and it just stops there. Like, come to work, get a paycheck, boom. I mean, that happens and that's okay. But when you are in leadership and you're looking to have impact, it generally means transformation. And transformation just is like one step beyond and above that transaction. But it's very hard to have transformation without transaction because you have engagement, you have dialogue, you have interminglings of different activities. When those things happen, you are having impact on others by the way that you carry yourself and what you have to say, how you say it, and where you say it, right? Find your voice, use your voice. And this one, where do you share? So none of this is something that we generally stop and think about in our own professional development and growth. But I'm telling you from firsthand experience, if you're in a season of burnout and you're trying to come out, or if you're going through a season of healing from just grief, whatever it might be that requires healing, when you're able to be intentional about these particular items with finding, using, sharing your voice, it will carry you through that season of healing, and you will come out stronger, and you will come out refined, and you will come out just shocking the crap out of yourself because you remember the days of when it was so dark, you weren't quite sure what was going on. I have been there. I think 1 out of 10 leaders that I encounter these days are either in it or they're trying to find their way out of it. And that breaks my heart for people because that could mean people's passion, purpose, and impact is just shrinking, and the world needs it, right? Remember, number one, not everybody wants it, and that's okay. The world is big enough, but there is an audience for what you have to offer, and you and only you can bring it. So that's why I care so deeply about you getting unstuck, right? Don't sit there stuck in whatever it is that's not allowing you to move forward with who you are, why you are, and sharing who you are. So we've covered kind of a lot in a short period, but it's overall. So here's what I want to share with you. If you want to discuss more, leave me a comment. If you want to consider working one-on-one, leave me a comment. You just need to let me know who you are and how to get in touch with you, and I will reach out and we will get you from here, burnout, struggling, needing to heal, over to here, healed, strong, functional, at peace, and moving in your purpose for a specific impact. I am so thrilled that you stayed this long. If you did, please give me a like, hit me up with that subscribe. And if you're brave enough to comment, I would love to hear from you. Thank you for spending your time with me. And until I see you again in our next video, I encourage you so much to keep practicing. Find your voice, use your voice, protect your peace. You've got this and you can do it.